Good morning, everyone. We're back with Harry Potter and the Hallows by J.K. Rowling. Some vision at page 148. Let's continue. Wormy was here. Pettigrew, the traitor, had seen the down. Had he? Was he aware he was seeing James and Lily alive for the last time? And finally, Matilda again. Who told incredible stories about Dumbledore? It seems incredible that Dumbledore. That Dumbledore what? But there were any numbers of things that would seem incredible about Dumbledore. That he had once received bottom marks in a transfiguration test, for instance, or had taken up gold charming like Aberforth. Harry got to his feet and scanned the floor. Perhaps the rest of the letter was here somewhere. He seized the papers, treating them in his own eagerness with as little consideration as the original searcher. He pulled open drawers, shook out books, sat on a chair to run his hand over the top of the wardrobe, and crawled under the bed and armchair. At last, lying face down on the floor, he spotted what looked like a torn piece of the paper under the chest of the drawers. When he pulled it out, it proved to be the most of the photograph Lily had described in her letter. A broom, roaring with laughter, Harry on a little broom, and a pair of little legs, roaring with laughter, pocket to James, who were chasing after him. Harry tucked the photograph into his pocket with Lily's letter and continued to look for the second sheet. After another quarter of an hour, however, he was forced to conclude that the rest of his mom's letter was gone. Had it simply been lost in 16 years that had elapsed since it had been written, or had it been taken by whoever had searched the room? Harry read the first sheet again, this time looking for clues as to what might have made made the second sheet valuable. His toy broomstick could hardly be considered interesting to the Death Eaters. The only potentially useful thing he could see were information on Dumbledore. It seems incredible that Dumbledore. What? Harry! I'm here, he called. What's happened? There was a clatter of footsteps outside the door. Hermione burst inside. We woke up and didn't know where you were, she said breathlessly. She turned and shouted over her shoulder, Ron, I found him! Ron's annoyed voice echoed distantly from several floors below. Good, tell him from me his gift. Harry, do not disappear, please. We were terrified. You come up here anyway. She gazed around and ransacked the room. What have you been searching and doing? Look what I found. He held out his mother's letter. Hermione took it and read it while Harry watched. When she reached the end of the page, she looked up at him. Harry... And this too. He handed her the torn photograph, and Hermione smiled at the baby zooming in and out of the side of the toy broom. I've been looking for the rest of the letter, Harry said, but it's not here. Hermione glancing around. Did you make all this mess, or was some of it done when you got here? Someone had to search before me, said Harry. I thought so. Every room I looked into on the way up had been disturbed. What were they after, do you think? Information on the Order, if it was Snape. But you think he'd already have all he needed? I mean, he was in the Order, wasn't he himself? Well, then, said Harry, he needed to discuss his theory. What about information about Dumbledore? The second page of this letter, for instance. This Matilda my mom mentions, and you know who she is. Who? Matilda Bagshot, the author of History of magic? Said Hermione, looking interested. So you parents know her. She was an incredible magical historian. And is still alive, said Harry. She still lives in Godric's Hollow. Once Auntie Muriel was talking about her at the wedding. She knew Dumbledore family too, but be pretty interesting to talk to, wouldn't she? There was a little too much understanding in the smile Hermione gave him for Harry's liking. He took back the letter and the photograph and tucked them inside the pouch around his neck, so as not to so as not to have to look at her and give himself away. I understand why you'd love to talk to her about your mom and dad, and Dumbledore too, said Hermione. But that wouldn't help us in our search for the Horcruxes, would it? Harry did not answer, and she rushed on. Harry, I know you really want to go to the Godric's Hollow, but I'm scared. I'm scared at how easily those Death Eaters found us yesterday. It just makes me feel more than ever that we ought to avoid the place where your parents are buried. I'm sure they'd be expecting us to visit. It's not just that, Henry said, still avoiding looking at her. Muriel said stuff about Dumbledore at the wedding. I want to know the truth. He told Hermione everything that Muriel had told him. When he had finished, Hermione said, Of course, I can see why that upset you. I'm not upset, he lied. I just like to know whether or not it's true or... Harry, do you really think you get the truth from a malleable old woman like Muriel or from Rita Skeeter? How can you believe them? You knew Dumbledore. I thought I did, he muttered. But you know how much truth there was in everything Rita wrote about him. That's right. How can you let these people tarnish your memories of Dumbledore? He looked away, trying to not to betray the resentment he felt. There it was again. Choose what to believe. He wanted the truth. Why was everybody so determined that he should not get it? Shall we go down to the kitchen? Hermione suggested after a little pause. Find something for breakfast? He agreed, but grudgingly had followed her out of the library and past the second floor and had offered. There were these scratch marks in the paintwork below a small sign that had been noticed in the dark. He paused at the top of the stairs to read it. It was a pompous little sign, neatly lettered by hand, the sort of thing Percy Weasley might have stuck on his bedroom door. Do not enter without the express permission of Regulus Acrimony, Arcticus Black. Excitement trickled through Harry, but he was not immediately sure why. He read the sign again. Hermione was already a flight of stairs below him. Hermione, he said, and he was surprised that his voice was so calm. Come back, up here. What's the matter? R.I.B. I think I found him. There was a gasp, and Hermione went back up the stairs. In your mom's letter? But I didn't see. Harry shook his head, pointing at Regulus' sign. She read it, then clutched Harry's arm so tightly that he winced. Sirius's brother, she whispered. He was a Death Eater, said Harry. Sirius told me about him. He joined up when he was really young, and then got cold feet and tried to leave, so they killed him. That fits, gasped Hermione. If he was Death Eater, he had access to Voldemort, and if he became disattached, then he would have wanted to bring Voldemort down. Well, I think we'll leave it here, guys, and we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.